Control. We're gonna talk about projection and control in this video, in relation to this dumbass church that constantly harasses me, forever, cause they're retarded. Sorry if that disparages you or makes you feel a certain way. Now, on the subject of, control, honestly, the first thing I want to address is, once again, Fred, Stu, Gannon, Blondie, every one of these stupid church leaders, including Kevin, every one of these people all accused me at some point of projection, claiming I was projecting onto them. And these guys are fuckers, because they kept going on about how I was forcing my values onto them, which was I was against human trafficking, and all these things, and the problem was I used the government to force my values onto them. While they themselves, by putting me in this contract, are forcing their values onto me. The only thing they value is being stupid. That is their favorite value. That is the only value. And I would argue they don't have... Okay, the truth is, that's kind of a mislead. The truth is they value obedience, but they think they value a bunch of other shit when all they do is value obedience. Mindless, stupid control. That is all they value. The factoid that I'm about to bring up in this subject, I'm going to try to be coherent because there are literally 3 or 4 ideas going through my head right now as I speak. Okay. So, projection. It is when you have a problem with yourself and you project it onto other people. Blondie, Stu, Gannon, every one of these people at some point said, "You're self-righteous!" No. That's a projection, actually. And I'm about to explain to you how you know it's a projection. Because these people don't have values. And I have values, and I guarantee you, in their shadow self, the deep dark side of their shadow self is envy. Because they don't have values. And this came up with when I spoke to Kevin, specifically. Because I literally told him, you find something that's important to you, something that you value and you think is worth fighting for, and that becomes a value. Okay, it sounds cool, and it is cool. I was like, when I was a kid, I swore I would help everybody I could. Now I don't feel like that anymore, so I think we're going to remove that from the list, because everybody is showing me that even if I help them, they're going to go be evil anyway, so what the fuck is the point? Because the goal of helping somebody is to show them that by helping people, you can create good people, which was a lie I told myself. I created a bunch of evil people by helping them. They turned into dickheads that raped women and stole from me and knifed me in the back as many times as they could, even though all I wanted to do was help people. And if you ever find yourself knifing good people in the back, you're a bastard. That's how that works. There's no argument for it. You either do the right thing, and your religion is not an excuse to not do the right thing. You do not get to go, it's my stupid fucking religion, and that's why I did evil shit. You're a bastard. That is what that means. If you cannot say this church is a human trafficking ring, if you cannot go, this church is a human trafficking ring, and you are a part of the church, you are a bastard. That is how that works. It is not up for debate. Okay, and I do not care about the under the threat of death if you tell people the truth. Okay, but I'm going to come back to this. I've got a little off subject. Projection. Self-righteous. Blondie is self-righteous because he goes around raping women. He goes around murdering women. He goes around killing people under the excuse of his religion. And it is an excuse. Okay. Then he has no values. So he is the self-righteous one, because in his brain, he doesn't know right from wrong. In his brain, it's chaos. The superego and ego are fused together into a single mess. And he thinks in that mess is justice because there's no definitive good and there's no definitive evil, so he doesn't have to be good. He can be a piece of shit, but he can then get the praise and adulation of being a good person while raping kids and murdering women. That is what he wants. He does not want any form of justice or responsibility for his actions. He runs screaming for it. So he is, by definition, self-righteous. Okay. But he projected that onto me. Now, you might go, okay, Bobby, if you were not projecting onto everybody using psychology, how do you know you weren't doing that? Because my entire life I have understood people. I have. I have made a conscious effort to try to understand where everybody is coming from. And the aspects of that was when I was in school and we talked to a teacher and we were talking about diagnosing people. They first talked about what is effectively the Dunning-Kruger effect. The thing about the Dunning-Kruger effect is not to point it out in other people. Believe it or not, that's projection. The Dunning-Kruger effect is the evidence that you are a flawed being and you make the Dunning-Kruger mistake the same way other people make the Dunning-Kruger mistake. It is a ego check. The Dunning-Kruger effect is an ego check, and it lets you know to put your ego in check. Now, am I guilty of projection? Maybe, but not to the extent that every church leader is, because they believe, because of what Carl Jung said, and I remember Blondie doing this, Carl Jung believed that everything you did is a projection, you're projecting, I don't do those things, I don't do those things. He does those things, because he doesn't have introspective. Once again, if you recorded him and showed him a video, he would not like it. If you showed him the video of him shooting Carolina Herrera in the head, he would not like it. He would scream and throw a tantrum because he wants to live in a made-up, objective reality that is completely fake, where he's the victim in everything. And once again, what enables him to be the victim? His church, which is why he saved the church, because he can't be the victim of the church doesn't exist. Would Blondie have shot Carolina Herrera in the head had I not been president, had the church not been the way, had the church not existed? Well, let's first talk about the church didn't exist. No, because Blondie wouldn't exist if the church didn't exist. Okay. So the church exists, and Carolina Herrera ends up getting money from the church. She doesn't pay it back. Would Blondie kill her? Yes. If she does anything to violate the code of the church, would Blondie kill her? Yes. If she did any of these things, yes. Blondie would murder her. The same way, he would actually murder Mary Bowberry if she happened to do something against the rules of the church. And here's the fun part. When I was president, she did. Better get your gun loaded, Blondie. Anyways, so the, so what I'm getting at is, a malignant narcissist, only real psychological skill is projection. And then fistition. They have to prove themselves right. They called me a coward. I did not act cowardly. They poisoned me with heavy metals to make me a coward. That is how that works. They project onto you, say you are these things. They say you're the emotionally stunted one when they're the emotionally stunted one. They say you have control issues when they have control issues. And this came up with Gannon, where he was like, and you tell them they have them, and I was like, well, that's the thing, Gannon. I was like, everybody has mommy and daddy issues to some extent. Everybody has control issues to some extent. It's when people can see them that they become a problem, Gannon. That is a fact. Now, you can torture somebody and take control like they have done to me, where they murder any woman I like and all these things. But here's the problem with that. This is how I view that. A woman can still like me. I still get asked out by women all the time. And I tell them there's a church that will come and murder them. I've been asked out by 4 different Latino women, really big asses down here. One of them even knew what church I was talking about and literally said the name of the church. And then she said they're a bunch of baby raping bastards. You know that? And I told her I was the former president of the Baby Raping Bastard Commission. And she started laughing. Yeah. Just because people know doesn't mean they talk about it. And she told me she felt really bad because she had a cousin that ended up in the same thing with these people. So, yeah. Everybody knows it's not a secret. I had multiple women down here, fucking literally, when I've said that, I was like, no, there's a church that'll come and murder you. They went, and I've had some that are, the women in the church are funny because they act like edgelords. Oh, they're not going to come murder me. And then you know to get away from them. But yeah. So, do I have control issues? I didn't before, but I definitely do now that I'm under a contract that cuts me off from the legal system and getting a lawyer and doing any of the things I normally would do. So yes, I have been given control issues, and this is once again fistition. They created it. They created it and then they said I had it, and then they created it and then said, see, he has control issues. But I would like to talk about another side of this that Carl Jung kind of presented to me. Carl Jung said that the easy, laid-back, cool guy, which is me, has control issues. But their control issues aren't as prominent because what they like is freedom. And I practice gratitude, so I am thankful for my freedom and I do not want it taken away. And yes, you may go, Bobby, don't they murder every girl? That's them. I don't do that. That's them. I am not responsible for their actions. And they try to cuck you and go, you are, because I don't have self-control. You need self-control. You need self-control. You don't have control. The same way that if Mary, somebody anonymously reports Mary for saying what she said about the church, Blondie has to shoot her in the head. He doesn't have a choice in the matter because he doesn't have control. He's never been in control. Never will have control. He is a slave to the church. And in his brain, because he's a slave, he enslaves other people. And the church tells him he's in control, but he has to follow the rules. But he's in control, but he also has to follow the rules. He has no choice in the matter. In fact, all 40 of the wives, the women I had sex with when I was president, actually said things against the church. So Blondie, get your gun ready. You're going to go murder a bunch of innocent women. Why? Because you don't have control. Now, let's talk about my problem. I never realized that exercising my freedom, which is your right as an American to be free, was a control statement. And I say statement because I don't believe it's an issue. I think people just genuinely love being free. And there's a guy, and Carl Jung basically talks about that. The guys that enjoy their freedom are the they're free. Like, I don't know, they enjoy their freedom. They like being free. That is how that works. Yeah. So, yeah, I love being free, and I don't want that taken away from me. To me, that is a surrender. To me, that is an extreme loss. And that is why I am against human trafficking, because what I want for myself, I often want for other people. I wanted all those people to be free. Blondie did not want that because he's a slave. And he's a slave to the church the same way Stu is a slave to the church. The difference is Blondie and Stu love being slaves. Blue-eyed guy loves being a slave because they're traumatized. And traumatized people want control. And they want someone to be in control. It doesn't have to be a good person. It can be anybody as long as that person is in control. They do not care. Okay? And that leads to atrocities. And that means they're weak people by definition because of their need for control. Now let's talk about the other aspect of this. A truly free person does not have to spend their lives fighting for their freedom. These dickheads will spend their entire lives fighting for their freedom. Let me just give you an example of this. Let's say you're a free person and then somebody comes to take your freedom and then they spend the rest of their life and your life fighting you. You are constantly trapped in an epic battle for your freedom forever. Okay, you are constantly kicking, fighting, biting, coming up with new ideas, bombing, blowing up, shooting, massacring, destroying for your freedom. Okay, and that is what this church does. They try to take it by force and end up in an eternal fight, trying to take it by force. And that is why the only answer to everything is erasure. Kill it. That's the solution. Kill it. And that is another problem I have with this church. But I wanted to also end this video on values. In this church, as I was talking to Kevin that day in the back of Papa John's, he explained Friedrich Nietzsche said to throw out your values and then come up with your own. Well, here's a really fun fact about life. When you're born, you don't actually have real values. Kids are effectively psychopaths. They do not care about anybody else. They are emotionally stunted. They only care about themselves. And then at some point, they learn values, whether it's from their parents or from a guardian or from experiences in life. They establish their own moral code, which is exactly what I did, which is exactly what a normal functioning human being does. They establish their own moral code. And I followed my moral code right up until I was snatched away from my house and then forced to do all the bad things that I would have never done in my life had I not been drugged, raped, and beaten, and then waterboarded and assaulted and poisoned with heavy metals, hypnotized, and forced into being a bad person. And these women out there did force me into being a bad person, and then they were confused about why everything went bad. It's because you love a defective psychology. But here is the solution in the church, and potentially, I need to make a list of potential wishes to make. Every dumb bastard in your church needs to establish their own moral code, and they have to submit it to your stupid fucking church. And if they value human life, they are not allowed to kill anybody ever, including themselves. But if they do not value human life, they themselves have agreed that they themselves are cannon fodder and can be killed at a whim at any given time because they do not value human life. You see, your values work as a mirror. They are reflected the same way projection is a reflection of the shadow self. That is why your values are important. If you do not value human life, you do not value your own life. And in this church, the narcissists go, I strongly disagree because there are certain people I just don't value, and I do value, and it's chaotic, and it's crazy, and no. No. And I would argue you have to put together your values by the time you're 18 years old in this church. And once you submit it and you tell your church leader you're against this, the church has to respect your rules. These are my laws for being a man, and you are not going to force me to violate them in any way. That is how I would solve the problem. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. And what do you guys also think about Blondie having to go murder a bunch of innocent women while telling you he's the good guy in this? And you know he's going to be the victim and go, Bobby said it, and now I have to kill these women. Or you could just tell your church leader and religion, it's stupid.